Hello, everybody. This is Teen Title Talk with Erin.
And Courtney,
This is the podcast.
where two librarians discuss two YA books every 2 weeks.
Today we'll be chatting about All 13, The Incredible Cave Rescue of the Thai Boys Soccer Team by Christina Soontornvat.
And The Rise and Fall of Charles Lindbergh by Candace Fleming.
But first up, we're going to dip into the jar of teen angst, and then we're going to chat a little bit about the YALSA Nonfiction Award. So, angsty question. This one's not angsty at all. It's great. It's food related, so it's right up my alley.
Questions.
What were your favorite winter foods, snacks, meals, or drinks as a teenager?
I'm not sure that I had any specific foods that were just wintry, except maybe, oh, you know what I loved and still love to this day?
Tell
is
me.
like a big bowl of Lipton's dried chicken noodle soup. Like you get it in a packet and you dump it in hot water.
Okay, because I was immediately thinking of, my mom called her Ma Grass, but that wasn't it. It was Mrs. Grass or something, but same idea. It's like this dried soup with the golden egg, and that is the brothy thing, and it dissolves.
Oh, yeah, that sounds fancier than mine, which is just a packet of powder and a few dried up, teeny tiny little noodles.
So wait, this is over Campbell's you'd have this? Instead of...
This is easier than Campbell's. So for a high schooler,
there's nothing easier than Campbell's. You crack the lid, you pour it into the pan, and then you put in 1 can of water.
This requires no pan.
What?
Oh, yeah, no. You pour the powder into your mug and you just pour some boiling water on top of it and bam, you've got yourself some soup.
Yes, sort of like an instant noodle cup.
Yes, like that. Another thing I loved and still love.
Sure, why not? I mean, that's a solid choice.
Yeah, I've been eating a lot of ramen this year, actually.
Gotcha. So, okay, so that's good. Lipton, dry pack of noodles.
Yes, Lipton's, feel free to give me $1 million for just telling the world.
Sponsored by Lipton. They also make iced tea.
They make a lot of things. That's true.
That's so true. Anything else?
Hot chocolate, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's a given.
With fluff in it.
Okay. That was not a common thing at my house, but we did have mallows, of course.
Of course. We didn't have marshmallows, but we always had fluff.
But what about those hot chocolate mixes where there's the tiny marshmallows in it, and then you pour them in and then they pretty much dissolve immediately.
Immediately. So you still got to put the fluff in it.
That's true. Yeah. I am going to go with chicken pot pie because my mom made that when it was a special occasion, usually on the request of our family. And then there was also chicken fricassee, and I don't remember us eating it often, but
what's in that?
When we did, it was special. It's it feels like a chicken stew, but then it's on, my mom would put it on a roll or a biscuit. And you just eat it. So
it's basically chicken pot pie.
Yeah. Except disassembled.
Got it. Okay, so you were thinking real hot.
Well, whatever. The next thing I have is not that, which is for drinks. It was always the gas station French vanilla cappuccino that comes from the machine. And I would go in and I would get a huge mug and I would fill it half with French vanilla cappuccino and half with hot chocolate.
Ooh, good combo.
Yeah. And that was I can't even imagine how much sugar that was, but I had that all the time with a bag of Chex Mix.
I would sometimes go through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through just to get hot chocolate, which still...
That is great. We did not have a Dunkin's anywhere near us at all. That was...
Oh my gosh.
The gas station was the thing. The only thing on the way to the high school.
Amazing. I did stop at my fair share of gas stations and convenience stores too.
Yeah, don't brag, Court.
Yeah,
I stopped at gas stations.
We did have a Dunkin' Donuts, but yeah, I did also. And
did we already talk about gas station snacks then? Because I feel like we need to briefly. A nice bag of combos.
Oh my gosh. Combos were my favorite driving snack of choice.
Doritos are my favorite driving snack.
Oh, they get your fingers so orange.
That's true, but you can lick them on the, like, intermittently.
You can. Yeah, I love pizza combos, obviously.
Obviously.
But I definitely prefer just like the cheddar in the cracker over the pretzels.
Well, yeah, you want to like bite around and get the middle out for sure.
Yes, definitely.
I think that's the best part.
Wow, I love combos.
So good.
And I can't really eat them anymore because this old lady body I have.
Yeah, I haven't had combos in ages. But if I stumbled upon a bag of combos, not like in the trash, I mean like in my house, I would eat them. Or if someone gifted me some combos, I'd eat them.
Yes, if they came across my path, I would eat them and I would instantly regret it because I would have heartburn for the next 5 hours.
Well, sure. But eat them slowly. That will probably help.
Yeah, that would probably help. Other gas station snacks I loved include those Little Debbie's honey buns.
Never had it.
Oh my gosh.
I'll look for it.
You're not missing much, but
I thought you were gonna say you haven't lived.
They're just like so big and shining. Like they're always on like a little end cap, or maybe they're Hostess. They're always on like an end cap.
Okay.
That has all the treats on it, and you're like, wow, look at those beautiful honey buns.
Is it a cinnamon roll, basically?
It looks like a cinnamon roll, but it doesn't have cinnamon. It's just like a dough swirl dipped in like the honey dip donut stuff. Nice.
We're going to Clem's tomorrow. You're reminding me we're going to Clem's tomorrow because it's the last day of vacation. So we're having Clem's as a treat.
What a great treat.
I think so. Some nice homemade donuts. Be great. And their blueberry fritters are the best, though. I don't think they'll be there right now, but they are amazing.
I love fritters.
All right, we better switch gears. We got to talk about the YALSA Award for Excellence in Nonfiction. So just as a quick, recap of what that is, the Young Adult Library Services Association gives this award for the best nonfiction book published for young adults. They're looking at ages 12 to 18 during November 1st through October 31st of a publishing year. And this year's finalists are All 13 by Christina Soontornvat. That's the one I read. The Cat I Never Named by Laura L. Sullivan. How We Got to the Moon by John Rocco. The Rise and Fall of Charles Lindbergh by Candace Fleming, which is what you read. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, You Call This Democracy by Elizabeth Rusch. So we're looking at excellence. Court, if you were a excellence in nonfiction judge, how would you determine the best in nonfiction? I know you only read one, but what are you looking for if you were to read all of them? What would you want to see?
Well, I definitely want to see basically the same elements I would see in some storytelling where I really need, especially in my nonfiction, a lot of dramatic tension.
Okay.
That's just personally what I'm looking for. And I think that's what makes nonfiction readable over just a list of facts.
Right. Got it. So that would maybe even start with just the story it's coming from.
Yeah, I think so. But I think you can make anything that happens in life can be interesting. So anything from history, anything from that's happening right now, mm-hmm. Some things could be told boringly, or they can be told with some element there of tension and some kind of climactic moment. It doesn't just have to be
more about pacing then.
Yeah, it doesn't just have to be a timeline of facts, because then you have just a textbook.
Right.
So I think that's sort of a story arc, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Gotcha. That sounds great. I would also look for that. I want in nonfiction definitely good information backed up by thorough research. That might be
that's a great
one thing.
Point. Yes.
But what you're saying is even more important to me as a reader. It's that cohesion, and then the narrative structure. I don't want it to be interrupted. So I kind of want those little information blocks that would maybe just disrupt the story if it was written in to be an aside. You know, they always have those nice little boxes in nonfiction books, little info blocks. And then I want everything that fiction has that I love about fiction, just like what you're saying, but with a lot of that research to back it up. So that's what I was looking for also when I was reading this amazing book that I read, which I'll tell you about later, which is all 13. But first, let's talk about yours.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know I bragged about this one a little bit on Instagram. And so you might already know that I loved it, but I didn't hear if you liked The Rise and Fall of Charles Lindbergh. So tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll get into it.
All right. So The Rise and Fall of Charles Lindbergh is, I guess you could say it is kind of a timeline style book of Charles Lindbergh's life. And Charles Lindbergh was the famous flyer, they call him, but pilot, who flew across the Atlantic from New York to Paris. And he did it all by himself in 37 hours. And it was the first time anyone had done it over the Atlantic. And it was, I think we have a hard time today understanding the enormity of something like that, where like someone doing something that no one's done before, because I think so much has already been done.
Sure.
Right now, not to say that no one's doing new things, but like I think it is a little bit difficult for people today to understand like how much of an impact, you know, like the first telephone call was. Or
what year was this, Court?
The remember? First transatlantic flight. Oh geez, it was in the 20s. I can't remember exactly what year.
I was gonna ask if it was the Roaring 20s.
It was right in the beginning of the 20s. And to give an example of how excited people were about this, they created a dance about him called the Lindy Hop.
Of course. Okay.
They were always making up dances at those speakeasies.
Wow, I did not realize the Lindy Hop was. I'm sure everybody knows that. I did not realize the Lindy Hop was actually named after him.
Yeah, it's named after Charles Lindbergh.
Wow. All right. So what did you like about the book?
I think what I like about it is that I think Candace Fleming does a really good job of digging in to see beyond the celebrity.
Okay.
So I think Charles Lindbergh was hugely, hugely, hugely famous after that flight. And, you know, I think we have a terrible collective memory as Americans and just as humans in general. And maybe we've talked about that before, but, you know, this was only 100 years ago now, basically. And people were crazy for Charles Lindbergh. Like, they would rip pieces of his clothes off.
What?
They ripped his plane when he landed in Paris. Everyone was so excited that they like grabbed pieces of his plane and tore it apart.
That's not cool, guys.
Have souvenirs, like to give you some example of like the fervor. And so it would be easy to just be like, wow, Charles Lindbergh is so amazing. He did these amazing things. He has this amazing engineering mind. They made movies about him. Jimmy Stewart is in one called The Spirit of St. Louis, which is the name of the plane that he flew. And in that movie, you really just see like how great Charles Lindbergh is and how he did this amazing flight. And it is amazing, but there's so much more. And I think the author does such a good job of digging into his much darker, creepier, and I'll probably evil side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was big on eugenics.
Okay, yeah. I feel like I knew this. I knew there was a dark side, and I'd heard rumblings of it, but I didn't, like, I have not studied this person at all.
Me neither.
So this is all new to me.
Yeah, this was new to me too, which maybe means I'm dumb because this was not new to the Americans then.
Right, exactly.
They knew about it.
And not far distant past.
Yeah. So eventually, at first he was like everybody's darling. And then when he started to be like, wow, Hitler's the best. And he like went to Germany and thought about moving there. And he thought like, wow, Hitler, you have created so much order and it's amazing. Why doesn't everyone want this? Dictatorships are the best. And And then Americans were like, oh, boo, hiss, we don't like that. So when they would see him on newsreels, they would like hiss at the movie screen and
Whoa.
everything.
Interesting.
But he came back and people liked him again. So
some. I don't think everybody. Hopefully there was
yeah,
some.
I mean, I think maybe there were definitely some people who had some doubts.
Okay.
Some lingering doubts.
Okay, gotcha. All right, what did you dislike? Anything? You have to pick something.
Well, you know, I will say that his life is so out of the ordinary that it lends itself very well to this kind of timeline story because what could have been quite boring, it's just like not, because so many crazy things happen to him.
Okay, gotcha.
He does so many things.
So that buoyed the whole project, I'm sure.
I think it did. I mean, the fact is he's just a fascinating character.
Right.
So that definitely works in Candace Fleming's favor. I think it would have been cool. Well, what don't I like? Well, I don't really like Charles Lindbergh. But after all that,
surprising.
I'm trying to think if there's anything she does that I'm not really into.
Like the pacing was pretty good, sounds like, if you were fascinated.
Yeah, I mean, there are parts that I think get a little in the weeds where I feel like, all right, like he does this weird, like he's into this, like this is part of his eugenics research where P.S. he's barely graduated from high school, and he thinks he's of this like I don't know, special white stock or something, so that makes him special.
Ew.
Smart automatically. And so he like meets up with a scientist who's also into eugenics, and they start trying to like make organs live forever, and he like invents things for the scientists to use to like keep hearts pumping for years. Anyway, so I mean, I think she goes really into depth into a lot of that stuff where I'm like, I mean, like, it's good to know, but I'm not sure I need all the info.
I gotcha.
But so maybe I did.
Although maybe because it's not just about that one flight. Like she wanted to paint the picture of the rise and the fall. Was it part of the rise or the fall, I'm assuming? Like,
well, yeah. So it definitely happens concurrently it's part of the fall.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
All right. What about something special about this title? What makes it really like? Would you choose it for a YALSA Nonfiction Award?
Well, I think what is so amazing about it is she pulled me in page 1.
Okay.
By giving an account of a rally that could have happened today.
Oh,
it's called an America First rally.
Okay.
And she doesn't say anybody's name. And so it's obvious where she's trying to lead you. Like she's trying to make it seem like this could be happening, that this maybe was a Trump rally, or this maybe was some other kind of like rally to get people excited about xenophobia.
Okay. Gotcha.
But so she goes through it. It's like 3 pages long. And she's giving you all the information about like a reporter who comes in, and all the people who are there are like suspicious of the press. And so they kick him out, they boo him out, and the police are kind of like crooked. And so they're kind of on the speaker's side. And then when the speaker finally comes out, like everyone's chanting like these America First type things. And it's very like, make America great again. And then when the speaker comes out, what they're all shouting is Lindbergh. Okay. And so you're like, what? And I think that was a great way to start. I thought that made it really compelling.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure that struck you right away.
Well, it definitely made me want to be like, okay, well, I'm going to have to keep reading this because I did not know that this was a part of Charles Lindbergh.
Right. And you want to see parallels to reality today.
Absolutely. And I think she does a good job with that.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. So moving on to your nonfiction, tell us about yours.
Oh, it was so good. All 13 was about the Thai cave rescue. If you need a refresher, basically on June 23rd, 2018, the 12 players of the Wild Boars soccer team, along with their coach, went on an outing into this cave in Thailand, northern Thailand. And unfortunately, on their way out, the waters had risen and they were trapped. I'm sure you saw coverage of this, right?
Oh my gosh, it was like terrifying.
Yes. They were trapped in the cave for 17 days in all. They were found on their ninth day, but there was so many obstacles in terms of like extracting them safely that they didn't get out until their 17th day.
Oh my
So
gosh.
the book was amazing. It covered so much from soccer and culture to the outing to the strategic rescue of the divers to the constant obstacles being thrown in their way by the rising waters and the upcoming rainy season. It also went into depth about the actual dive out where the kids were sedated and moved through the tunnels unconsciously, which was still terrifying, even though I knew it would all turn out okay. I knew that they were going to be fine, but it still was incredibly tense. It showcased all the hard decisions and the bravery of everyone involved. It's a really good book, full color photographs of the rescue, and it took me less than 24 hours, I kid you not, to read it. And I know as a parent right now, you know that's saying a lot.
That is saying a lot.
I was just like, I have to read this. Stop talking to
I
me.
have to find out how it ends, even though I know how it ends.
Yeah, it was
That's
very
good.
well crafted.
That's the tension I'm talking about.
Yes.
So what'd you like?
Well, I love the narrative tone. So it's sometimes I find, like we've been talking about, that nonfiction writing can be very distant and dry. In this case, the author struck it's sort of an informative yet informal tone. So she occasionally brings the reader into the experience by directly addressing us, like, you might wonder, blah, blah, blah. And I don't see that a lot. I thought it was an interesting and also an accessible choice because it felt just kind of like going along with her, a very informed guide. And yet, she didn't hesitate to talk about the tough stuff, especially of survival, like what happens to the body when faced with days without food, or what
gosh.
it's like to blindly dive through a sump. It had this great mix between an experienced narrative, storytelling tone, and an informational one. And basically, it struck a balance that worked exceptionally well, I thought.
Ooh, that sounds good. Was there anything
Yeah, I just really love the style. So, but I'm sure that's personal preference too. Some people might be like, oh, I don't like how it's so informal, but it's very professional and polished, even though
Mhm.
the tone, leans a little bit toward the informal and accessible. It's very polished.
Well, that's good. I mean, you wanted to have a little bit of a point of view. Like mine had a point of view, obviously. She's making comparisons.
Right.
So, I think that's good.
I think so too.
Was there anything you didn't like?
If I had to choose something, which we always do, it would be the cover. It feels a little too busy. So it's basically on the left-hand corner, we see I think it's the left, maybe it's the right. We see the sandals on the rock. And then there's a lot of green and the letters are orange, which is indicative of the wilderness. And then there's a picture of the rescue workers on the left. And then the top half of the book cover it's a silhouette. It's like a silhouetted, or maybe just silhouettes against a cave or jungle backdrop.
Hmm.
So it's definitely documentary photographs and it clearly depicts what the book's about, but I just felt like it had too much going on. When I first saw the cover, I immediately wondered why it was up for the YALSA Nonfic Award because it struck me at first glance as being a nonfiction book for younger readers. So, I
Oh.
mean, once I actually had it in my hands and I felt the density of it and I looked through it, that obviously changed. Definitely fits for the age group. But just the cover made me feel like perhaps it was geared toward a younger audience.
Oh, that when the cover doesn't match, it just
I
is
mean,
trouble.
it's a totally personal opinion. It's so subjective. But for me, I was meh about it.
All right. Well, we do make you pick a thing,
I
so.
know. And I
What was
tell you,
something extra special about it?
extra special was that it's an edge of your seat nonfiction book. It was very readable, more readable maybe than an action adventure or survival novel.
I was going to say, this sounds perfect for like reluctant teen
Oh,
readers.
sure. It's packed and it's so tense. I read it on New Year's Eve and it snuck in as my favorite book all year because the pacing and the story was so well told. It really was a heart-pounding page turner. I know I haven't read the other ones, but I was taken by this one and I'm rooting for it, frankly, to win the Nonfiction Award. So we can read more for the next section because there's only 5 up. So if you're up for nonfiction, because we have not read a lot for our podcast this year, not that much nonfiction, we could read 2 others from the list and see if they add up.
We should.
We
should. I'd be interested to see.
Okay, because for this one, right now, it's got the whole package for me.
Oh, I love that.
And she did put all the information blocks, on the side. It didn't stop her storytelling. The narrative was fast paced. The information was all very clear. The research, it was, as far as I could tell, was extremely well done.
That's awesome. And I love also that it's something contemporary. So I think that's something else that would like interest people, because it's not just like a historical account. It is, but like a recent historical account. Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
I think people still have the memory of it pretty vividly because the whole world was watching. Mm-hmm. So there's still that energy around it. Yeah. I'm sure that led a little bit of it, but honestly, even if you didn't have any information about it, maybe it would be more intense because you don't know if the kids are going to make it out. Although it's the cave rescue and it's called All 13. So you would hope that right there in the title, it's telling you it's going to be fine. True. So how about, let's turn to book buzz. Anything fun happening in the book world? I had a couple.
You have more than I do, but I do want to say that I don't know if people out there are reading the New York Times, but recently there was a great article. I think it was released, just like 2 days ago, December 30th.
Yeah.
Called Nearly a Century Later, We're Still Reading and Changing Our Minds About Gatsby. Yeah. And I thought it would be worth mentioning on here because I know that The Great Gatsby it's not YA, but it's something that a lot of people read in high school.
Always, yeah.
And so I think it was a great read for me because it actually did encourage me to think about Gatsby in new ways. And I was like, maybe I should reread that because traditionally I have hated it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, no, I'm not. It's like too much excess. It's too much just like over the topness.
Right.
It's people I cannot relate to. I am not a gajillionaire or whatever.
I just am picturing, and all honestly, it's been a long time. I'm picturing a martini glass, and then I'm picturing a car crash.
I think you've got the whole thing right there. Okay. There's some diamonds in there too. I see diamonds. A party and people dancing in a fountain.
Okay.
And I have always been like, ugh, these people are annoying to me. But you know what? Living right now when we are living, which I feel like is possibly the dawn of a similar time.
Gotcha.
I'm feeling a little bit more like, maybe I see more of myself or more of other people I know in it than I thought.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting.
Anyway, it was a good article. I recommend it.
We'll check it out. So did you happen to see that Enola Holmes and the Conan Doyle estate has settled a lawsuit? Because I know you watched Enola Holmes.
I have watched Enola Holmes.
Okay, apparently there was a lawsuit in which the Arthur Conan Doyle estate sued over the movie. Book Riot said that most of the Sherlock Holmes canon is in the public domain now. That's, such a long time has passed since publication. However, the Conan Doyle estate argued that the difference between what is and isn't in the public domain was Holmes's having empathy. And their take on that in the movie. Can you imagine suing over someone's use of empathy?
Wait, so because he was empathetic, that is not true to
or that character? He was or wasn't? I don't even know because I don't even remember in the movie if he didn't have empathy, right? Or he did maybe at the end. He
did. In Enola Holmes, he kind of does. He's like a little bit of like an older brother who cares.
It's just so bizarre to me because it's not even about Sherlock.
It's not.
Get over it and get out of the way. I don't know. I'm sure they're lovely.
I don't know. They're just trying.
That is so unnecessary.
Wow, that's crazy. I can't even believe that. I mean, come on now.
Also, no big deal, but I saw in PW that Derf McDurf's Kent State topped PW's 2020 graphic novel critics poll. I did not.
We just talked about that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm in agreement with it. And lastly, I saw a fun announcement that I thought might interest you in the children's bookshelf that Sarah Alper Algonquin has bought world rights to Our Shadows Have Claws. And PW says it's a YA horror anthology co-edited by Amparo Ortiz and Yamil Said Mendez. And they're short stories featuring mythological monsters and magical baddies from Latinx folklore.
Yes.
We know some names that were in the list also, specifically Anne de Villa Cardinal, Jenny Torres Sanchez, among others. So I think that one might be on our future list.
I'm probably going to read that in this coming year.
I agree. I think it's going to be great. All right, that's a wrap on today's podcast. Did you know that you can now listen to us on Pandora? You can literally type Teen Title Talk into the search and we will come right up. Thanks for Pandora for streaming podcasts. That's exciting and it's new. Of course, wherever you're listening, thanks so much for joining us. And don't forget to drop us a line at any time by emailing us at teentitletalk@gmail.com.
Thank you for joining us for Teen Title Talk. This podcast is brought to you by the Derry Public Library and Derry-CAM, Derry Community Access Media, empowering independent voices. Wherever you're listening, if you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to rate and review it. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Bye.
Bye.